Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief brought to you in partnership with Lay of the Land. Welcome to our community members from all over the world. And what we love here on the Israel Brief is that you guys ask the questions that are preying heavy on your mind, and I really promise to answer them as best I can. Today we have not one but two audience questions. I felt that they were both important, so I wanted to take them both. And a reminder, if you have a question, please pop it in the comment section below or be in touch with us via our website. But let's take a look at those top stories making headlines. And it is day 355 of Israel's war with Hamas. And of course, we have Operation Northern Arrows on our northern border. The reason why I mention each day specifically is because we still have 101 hostages being held captive in the Gaza Strip. Now, last night I had the enormous privilege of joining Stand With Us. They are an incredible advocacy organization. They are hosting an art exhibition by graffiti artist Bensi, who has done these what can only be described as incredible portraits of each of the victims of the 7th of October and fallen soldiers. It was the most immense privilege to be there last night in a room filled with my peers, but also with the families of hostages, of fallen soldiers. I had the opportunity to speak to Nissim Luk. Nissim is the father of the late Shani Luk. It was profoundly moving. And I think it was a cathartic opportunity for all of us just to mourn together and to cry together. As we approach the 7th of October, there are going to be more and more of these events. And I urge, if you are in Israel, if you are in Jerusalem, to please get your tickets through Stand With Us to see this exhibition. It runs for 3 weeks, and it really just hits you right in the soul. So let's take a look at the top stories. And of course, our focus is on the situation in the north. Israel has launched Operation Northern Arrows in response to the incessant rocket attacks by Hezbollah since the 8th of October. And the reason we are focusing on this, we have also seen our President Isaac Herzog speaking on a number of international news channels, is because enough is enough. One of our war goals, apart from the return of our hostages and to dismantle Hamas, is to return our over 63,000 civilians, citizens back to their homes, what's left of their homes in the north of the country. And the only way that we can do it is to ensure that the threat posed by Hezbollah is eradicated. So there have been a heavy exchange of rockets, or fire rather. We are not rocketing Hezbollah, we are striking specific Hezbollah targets in Lebanon. But a lot of rockets being fired. Just today, 40 at the city of Tzfat, a very holy city. It's the city of Kabbalah. One of those rockets struck an assisted care facility for the elderly. So far, we don't have any casualties. Early this morning, Hezbollah launched a long-range surface-to-surface missile towards Glilot. Those are where the Mossad headquarters are. That was intercepted by David Sling, one of the air defense system or part of the air defense array. We have had rockets fired towards the Golan, all over the Galilee, and to places like Nazareth, a very holy Christian city, as well as surrounds. 2 people were injured, one of them seriously. This is according to Magen David Adom in the kibbutz of Sa'ar, very close to Nahariya, a little bit earlier today. Israel has continued to warn civilians in the south of Lebanon to evacuate areas where there could be Hezbollah strongholds and weapons launching sites. They've also warned civilians not to return yet. The situation is still not safe. Last night, the IDF confirmed a targeted strike on Kubaisi. Kubaisi is one of the most wanted Hezbollah targets. He is also the head of Hezbollah's missile unit. So he was eliminated, and what we have seen is a massive strata of Hezbollah high command being eradicated, and according to Hezbollah, speaking anonymously to Reuters, about 1,500 of their operatives were affected, I will say, by the exploding pages and walkie-talkies last week. Now, of course, Israel has not claimed responsibility for that attack. We now go to the United Nations, and what we call here as journalists the Super Bowl of speeches has begun. The world leaders from all around the world have gathered in New York at the UN General Assembly. Each leader has an opportunity to address the plenary. So I'm going to read you a little from US President Joe Biden's speech last night. As per tradition, he is the first world leader to open the plenary. And he said, after the October 7th attacks, any country would have the right, the responsibility to ensure that such an attack could never happen again. He also went on to say that thousands of armed Hamas terrorists invaded a sovereign state, slaughtering and massacring more than 1,200 people, including 46 Americans, in their homes and at a music festival. Despicable acts of sexual violence, 250 innocents taken hostage. I've met with the families of those hostages. I've grieved with them. They're going through hell. The president did express his empathy for the suffering of Palestinians and hoped for a ceasefire soon. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa also took to the stage, and while addressing issues that affect South Africa from a domestic perspective, he also took aim at Israel, accusing Israel of being an apartheid state and saying that as somebody who endured apartheid, he knows what apartheid looks like. Now, I don't know if President Ramaphosa has ever visited Israel, but we could very easily dispel those claims. All you have to do, Mr. President, is visit the ranks of our army, go into any business, visit the Knesset, visit the Supreme Court, speak to the highest echelons of our private sector, walk through our universities, look at our medical schools. The highest percentage of pharmacists come from the Arab sector. Look at our media and just spend the day walking around the city of Tel Aviv or Jerusalem or Haifa or any of our cities in Jerusalem to see for yourself. So I know that I can't invite you officially, and I know that the policy of the ANC, your party, is not to visit Israel. Maybe they don't want anybody to see the situation on the ground for themselves. But President Ramaphosa, if you ever watch the Israel brief, I invite you to visit Israel. You might just change your mind. Prime Minister Netanyahu is scheduled to depart for the UNGA tomorrow, unless, of course, the situation in the north precludes that, but he will be accompanied by several hostage families. And what I found interesting, just observing the ongoings at the UNGA, is that the head of the ICC, the chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, felt no compunction to publish photos of himself yesterday, posing quite happily with Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority president, as well as Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan. Now, it's very interesting because he is pushing for arrest warrants against our Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of a democratic sovereign state, as well as our Defense Minister. And that, to me, just, I don't know, maybe it's just me, smacked of political agenda. This chief prosecutor is why it is very difficult to take the ICC serious and not think that you are in clear violation of your court mandate. We now go to the United Kingdom, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer, addressing the UK Labour Party conference for his first massive speech as the Premier of the country, called for the immediate release of the sausages. He then corrected himself and said hostages. And now, while the gaffe is quite funny, and I have seen a number of sausage jokes, the sentiment is not. The Prime Minister, speaking on behalf of our hostages, reiterating that this has to be the prime goal of his government to ensure the safe release of the hostages. He also called for an end to the war, calling for an immediate ceasefire. The Hostages and Missing Persons Forum released a statement soon after, thanking the Prime Minister and his government for making the hostages a priority. Meanwhile, he has appealed to any British nationals still in Lebanon to evacuate immediately. And finally, we go to the south, and rockets are still being fired by Hamas, also an internationally recognized terrorist organization. Rockets were fired towards the city of Ashkelon as well as Sderot and were intercepted by the Iron Dome system. Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor for the White House, has also confirmed that the main obstacle to any ceasefire is Yahya Sinwar. And that brings me to one of our audience questions. Bobby Swart asking me, is he dead? Is Sinwar dead? Can we confirm that? Hi, Bobby. Thank you for your question. We can confirm that he is believed to still be alive. It was reported earlier this week that there was the possibility he may have been killed as part of a precise airstrike by the IDF. However, the Shin Bet warned that it's not unusual for Sinwar to be incommunicado. The IDF retrieved several bodies, brought them to Israel for DNA testing. None of them were Sinwar. It is believed that he is still alive and remains Israel's most wanted man. And the second question comes from somebody who asked to be anonymous, asking, why don't we show the Palestinian side on the Israel brief? And I want to address that because I think that's very, very important. And I want to reiterate that Israelis are very aware of the situation in Gaza, and I have spoken about the grave humanitarian crisis inside the Gaza Strip. And I've also spoken about how we in Israel do feel an incredible amount of empathy for the innocents in Gaza who are suffering as a result of the war that Hamas forced upon both them and ourselves. However, the reason why I don't focus on the Palestinian narrative is because the Israel brief was established several years ago. In fact, tomorrow, Lay of the Land celebrates 6 years of our existence. The reason that I focus on this is because the global media do not bring you the news from Israel. They do not bring you the Israeli perspective. And many are unaware of the trauma that Israelis are still enduring, what happens here in Israel, what it is like to live with these kind of accusations and under war and under continuous threat, but also to show you all the different sides to Israel, our robust democracy where people do take to the streets to protest the government because we can. That's our beautiful democracy where we do achieve on the global stage. It's very important to bring to the world the voice of Israel from somebody who is Israeli and is working on the ground as a journalist. So I hope you understand, it's not that we don't have empathy or don't want to talk about Palestinians, but the focus of this particular channel is the Israeli narrative and bringing you the headlines that you won't see in your media in your countries, unless of course there are exceptions like Sky News Australia or Talk TV in the United Kingdom, maybe Fox News in the United States, who do show and are sympathetic to the Israeli narrative. And those are our top stories for today. Please don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Luttel's site. Our YouTube channel is at The Israel Brief. We are on X at Lay of the Land 5, on my Instagram channel, or I think you can call it a channel at Rolene_Marks, on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, and I think I've exhausted all my social media. So guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless you. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you tomorrow.